joining with us in this webinar series. It's all about you. It's all about us together learning as a community. We feel the importance of sharing has become more important now than ever. And we hope that these webinars, which talk about work and life, we try to bring you as many varied topics as possible to become, to add some value to your life. And it can only happen if you join every time whenever you get chance, and you share it among your friends and family and colleagues so that they can also benefit from each other. So coming to today's topic, we have a very interesting and apt topic, which is very much needed in these days, which is marketing during COVID-19. Why digital marketing is more important than ever. Businesses are going to become more reliant than ever on digital marketing strategy, and strong digital marketing during COVID-19 will not only help your business survive and thrive through difficult times, but will also help lay the groundwork for success and move forward as we begin to look ahead to a more normal life. And to give this presentation, we have a young gentleman, Ben Thiers, and he left his corporate world in 2012 and rolled up his sleeves to get to work on his dream of going into business for himself. Ben founded School Marketing to help small businesses and nonprofits get found online. Ben earned a degree in sports marketing and business from Minnesota State University and possesses a love of small businesses and his experience. And he also has experience working directly for Google. The best part is the interesting facts about him is he is a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan and has been featured in countless articles and TV appearances about the Vikings. Ben brings his passion for sport and his competitive edge to the table to help his clients enhance their online presence. And he has been also very much involved in Special Olympics Minnesota since 2007. And the interesting part is that he loves the TV show Friends, owns all 10 seasons and can quote nearly every line. So that's very interesting. And we know then how, friendly Ben is. So welcome, Ben. Thank you so much. We are honored to have you. Over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me. Great to be here and really happy to be able to kind of talk to you guys about, marketing during COVID-19. I know there's a lot of information kind of going out there, but we're going to kind of take it from approach of really kind of figuring out what people are going through psychologically and how do we actually market, to someone like that and kind of understanding it. So, again, really interesting and really excited to be here today with you guys to have a chat. So one thing I just kind of like to kind of start with is the Harvard Business Journal came out with this kind of quote or this claim that on average, increases in marketing spending during a recession have boosted financial performance throughout the year following the recession. And so what I like to kind of mention is marketing spending doesn't necessarily always have to mean money. Yes, it, again, means some of that, but it's all resources, meaning your time and energy. So we're going to kind of walk through this, but it's potentially the different types of, again, content or different types of relationships or the effort that we're putting into this to be able to actually reap the benefits of this. Again, like I'm not saying obviously that we're in a recession, but when we're going through a time that obviously we're feeling some of the strains from the economy or in the economy, then obviously, again, this quote does apply that, this shouldn't just be a time where we just kind of shelter in, go into our cocoon and do nothing. We should use this as an opportunity and realize what we need to do to potentially just even get through this, but even more importantly, set ourselves up for the future. So when the economy does come back or we do come out of this, whatever that may look like, though, we put ourselves in the best possible situation to succeed. So, one of the questions is, Ben, well, why would I actually market during this time? Well, a couple things to look at, especially when it comes to digital marketing. Internet traffic is up over 50%. From where we normally see it, or where we actually saw it from this time last year. Now, part of that has to do with we're doing a lot more video conferencing and things like that, but now people are closer to our digital marketing because they're using the internet, again, 50% more. Again, going off of the, again, the previous quote, if we invest now, we can not only help ourselves get through this situation, but then we can also reap the benefits later, meaning that we can set ourselves up from a competitive advantage standpoint, just from a business perspective, potentially new opportunities. There's a lot of good things that can come out of it, even as we continue to market during these times. It's also important to realize that people are still buying. Again, not only do people want to support you if you're a local company, or even if they're your favorite big company, but people also, again, are still buying. They want to give back. They want to, again, support you. But also knowing that they're, again, we want to keep a relationship with them because they're going to go back to their normal spending habits eventually at some time. And yes, some of those may change and it may not be exactly, but it's probably most likely not going to be as low or as different as it is now. The other thing to also realize too is users still need your services. Now, obviously that is dependent on your industry, but for the most part here, no matter the industry, potentially, unfortunately, there's a few there that are hit very hard and may not be needed right now. But I would say for the most part, most industries and most companies and most, services and products offered are still needed at this point, or still potentially wanted at this point. And so it's to remember that the customers are out there. We just may have to find them in a different way than we're used to. And I think that's usually like the biggest key here is that. Another thing to realize too is the competitive advantage, and this is just an arbitrary type of analogy here, but if if your competition and you were kind of walking, meaning the amount of marketing that you were doing, maybe you were jogging, maybe you were running, the idea is to also look at this could be a competitive advantage because maybe that competitor that you were going up against was jogging with his, digital marketing and now has just stopped everything. Well, now, even if we maybe slowed down a little bit, or we even ramped it up, no matter what we're doing, if we're doing something, we're doing more than they are. So it's also kind of important to realize not only what we can do, but also look at it from a competitive advantage standpoint and see what our competition is doing to see if we can do more than them, because this could be an opportunity where we can actually maybe gain some market share. Or if we already have market share, maybe it's to keep that gap open or to even widen that gap. And then the last but not least is just to remember that we do have to be patient and we have to be cognizant of the situation. And we have to be, understanding, empathetic to, again, what consumers are going through here today, and understanding, again, the kind of the psychology and just their personal situation, how, again, and if they've been affected and all of these different types of things, it's, again, really important to, again, to look at and to realize. So one thing I always like to have people start to do is to audit yourself. Again, really just take this opportunity to make sure that we're kind of aligned with what we want to do. And so one of it can be, again, obviously there were loans out there were things to kind of do. Maybe it's even if we have a store, we want to update the signage, for our employees, we want to make sure that we have a safe work environment, just making sure that, again, you have your bases set for yourself. Because if we don't have that foundation, it's going to be hard to get users or customers or potential customers to either buy in or to even service them if we don't have some of our bases set. So it's just another reminder to make sure that we take a second and just, make sure that we're doing all we can for ourselves and to better ourselves, again, internally. Oops, sorry, give me 1 second there. So the first thing to really kind of understand is, I talked about at the beginning here is we want to look at the different audiences and understand the different kind of psychological area or, again, feeling that these consumers are going, again, are in and are going through, so that then we can actually market to them during that time. So really, when we look at COVID and marketing during COVID, we really like to put people into three different groups. And we've kind of just came up with some, again, funny names with them. So the first group, and we'll go through all of these and understand what they're going through more, and then how actually some examples we can actually build a relationship with them or to actually even market to them. So group one is the slam on the brakes group. Group two is going to be conservative but looking ahead. And then group three is going to be business as usual, or as usual as it can be with everything kind of going on. It's important to realize that group two is going to be again, going to have the most amount of people in it, but that does not mean that we should not ignore group one and group three. It's also important to realize that people over time can progress or regress, again, as things start to happen, meaning that, and again, this will make more sense as we go through these different groups, but again, someone could be in the slam on the brakes, again, group, then go through group two, go to group three, but maybe something happens and then they are looking to regress as well, and they maybe went back to group two. So it's important to realize that people can do that, and we want to make sure that we're, again, considerate about that, and also it's part of the strategy as well. We also want to make sure that we do have a plan for all three of the groups, understanding that they're going to kind of come and go, but group two is going to be the most prevalent group that we're going to be able to, again, market against. But at the end of the day, realizing that, again, we're doing this together. Also, a lot of this stuff is changing so fast. And so we also need to be, adapt and understand that not only are these things going to change, and I don't really even need to reiterate that, everyone, because everyone's gone through this, but it's just important to just remind ourselves that, we can lay all these plans out, but all this, again, may change, or just understanding as things get better as a whole or gets worse as a whole, some of these, again, things may change. Okay, so the first group is going to be the slam on the brakes group. This is going to be again, someone that is very concerned and from a psychological standpoint is, again, kind of panicking or very nervous. It's very important to realize that these users have a lot of value, but most likely from a purchasing decision and a purchasing power, right now, they're going to have a low value because a lot of times they're most likely shutting down everything or maybe just doing the bare basics. So they're not going to most likely purchase right now. They may be looking at information. They may be, again, just wanting to experiment, maybe even plan for the future, but they're most likely not going to be making a purchase right now, or like I said, on a very minimal scale. So how we have to essentially kind of market to them is going to be, we have to focus on the future. So how can we still kind of create a relationship with them, stay in front of them, so that in the future, when they go to group two, when they go to group three, that we weren't just out of sight, out of mind, that we still actually looked to create a relationship with them, knowing that it's almost like farming. We're planting a lot of seeds so that we can harvest the crop at a later point. So we need to make sure that we kind of realize that, and also understand that when you go through this effort, that you are looking for a long-term value on this. This is not going to be an immediate return. So we have to do it a little bit strategically. And we also have to kind of remember that when we're looking to prioritize our resources of time, energy, and money to essentially get the best ROI out of it. Also with this group it's really important to even just let them know, again, any philanthropy that you're doing. We're not looking to brag or to flaunt it, but it does really kind of help. Not only just it's nice being able to tell everyone or give exposure to things that even a normal person, again, can do. Almost one of those adages, if I can do it, you can do it. But it also shows that, again, different people, especially in this crowd, that you are caring, that you're giving back and not really expecting anything in return, that you're taking your hard-earned resources and dumping that into the community, helping them potentially individually, whatever it may be. So some examples here of some things that we can kind of look at is creating some DIY content. Create some content that a user could do themselves. And again, I'll show you some examples here in just a second. But the idea is that, hey, we're going to be a resource for these people. Again, the idea is that we want to create a relationship with them that will last a long time and get us out of the area that we're in now, so that we can get them to group two or group three, or I should say when they feel comfortable and they move to group two or group three, we actually have more of a purchasing opportunity. Also, potentially offer free virtual consultations. Again, be able to be a resource for them, give them something so that, again, you're creating a relationship, you're maintaining a relationship with them, knowing that you're not going to necessarily get anything out of that right now, but you're starting to create and maintain a relationship with them, and you're giving them something of value, helping them during this time. And again, that could be an item, that could be, you can kind of see at the bottom here is if it's an actual product or item that they could utilize right now, if that's actually a service-based company and you're offering something free that can even help them. Maybe it's not even a consultation. It could be something along those lines. But the idea is that we're giving people something without expecting something in return immediately, and understanding that we're looking to build a long-term relationship with these individuals. So to give you an idea of how we can actually put that marketing into action is a couple things here. Is, again, looking at social media posts are a great way. It's content. It, again, has all the feels. We can do all that kind of stuff when it comes to philanthropy or being resources. If we create videos, how-to videos, if we offer the consultation, if we're offering, again, a free sample or product to help people during this time, social media posts are a fantastic way to get it out there. It takes some time and energy and effort on our end, but it's really kind of a free platform to be able to use. Also, again, website messages, if those are maybe pop-ups, or those are maybe a landing page of maybe your different philanthropy type of things and community pages. Maybe it is, fill out this form and we'll send you a, free item. Fill out this form and schedule a free consultation. There's different ways that we can kind of do that. And also with blogs, it's very similar to the website messaging, but just in a different kind of format. So here are three kind of, fun examples that I like to kind of show people down here that really are a few things. So one is Love Your Melon. It's actually a local Minneapolis company that works a lot of times with cancer patients, and they make a lot of beanies and little beanie hats. And so what they did is they kind of shifted to making masks, and they were actually donating a ton of masks. People could also buy and donate them or do donations themselves. But it was a fantastic way to kind of show those people that, hey, we're giving back. We're kind of shifting what we're doing, but we're still, here in the community trying to help. Same thing with a local brewery. And I know a ton of breweries around the nation and world did this as well. As they actually started making hand sanitizer, with their processing, and we're actually giving that away. Some were selling it, but a lot of them were actually giving this away, saying, hey, if you need this, we're here for you. Take this bottle. And obviously it's an opportunity to start to potentially create a relationship or maintain that relationship, as people can't necessarily go to your brewery and, have a beer, or if we can't be open, or again, in this case, if we're open, but people don't feel comfortable, we can still get our product or our name or our brand out there in a respectful way. That's also a resource for someone. And last but not least is my most fun one that I like to talk about is, Burger King did this little infographic as kind of a, fun thing to say, hey, I know that maybe you can't come in or don't want to come in to Burger King to get a Whopper. Here's how to make one at home. So just a little kind of fun how-to. And again, you can look to kind of apply this to your business. It could be maybe a service based industry. If you're an auto mechanic or you're a landscaper, maybe you're giving them some tips and tricks on how to maintain your car, how to change your oil, how to maintain the lawn, how to prune your bushes, whatever it may be. You're looking at being able to offer someone, a resource, and looking to, show somebody essentially what you're doing from a philanthropy side, not bragging, again, not being arrogant about it, but looking that, hey, we're in this together. We're trying to help you. We understand that you're not looking to make a purchase decision. That's okay, because we're here for you. That's really how we're going to be able to go after the slam on the brakes crowd. And I say go after, very nicely, in that, understanding that it's going to be a long-term value, that LTV of that client is we're, putting in work now to build that relationship, at a later date, or to potentially, have them make a sale at a later point. So the next group is, again, where I said, this is actually the largest group that we're going to see. And so this is usually the one that is spent the most time on, just from obviously kind of a resources standpoint or just kind of looking at that. But this is the conservative but looking ahead. So this is going to be, again, this is going to be where people are hesitant to make a purchase or to go out or to engage with a brand or do whatever. But the idea, though, is that they are willing to do it. They just may need to be positively coerced. And so again, that's kind of like my fancy word that I like to kind of throw around with the conservative but looking ahead. But but it's true. Is we have to be flexible with them. We have to understand that. Again, like they're not just going to jump at everything. We have to maybe do some convincing. We have to, again, positively coerce them to do that. So how do we do that? Well, really what we want to look at is we want to make sure that we communicate to them, how do our services or your services as the business owner, how can it help them right now during this time or potentially even in the future? But the idea is, how does my product or service help you? That's what we need to essentially kind of communicate to them. We need to make sure that it's a genuine purpose in messaging. So that just making sure that we're being authentic. We may have to tone down some of our, again, if we're very direct with our marketing or buy now is, again, we just have to make sure that we have some of, authenticity, that genuine. You want to make sure that your messaging isn't too hard. Again, some other kind of ideas is online ordering or curbside. Again, positively coerce. May not feel comfortable coming into the store or engaging with your brand or your service fully, but if we can modify that from, for instance, online ordering or curbside, now we can actually still, positively coerce them to do something with us. Some other ideas, for instance, are maybe it's offering a discount right now. Again, not looking to obviously discount your services from a value perspective, but being realistic about the situation here. And again, to sometimes positively coercing can be offering some sort of discount that we can apply to our services, understanding that, it may lead to more down the road. Also, potentially, maybe it's an offer, a payment plan or deferred payments. I work with clients that have done interest-free payment plans to be able to help them. We've actually done that within school marketing, again, different payment plans. We've also done deferred payments to kind of help people, obviously, again, with some of the uncertainty or whatever, and having an agreement that we can maybe push some of those payments off while still being able to give you service. We can actually kind of defer some of those payments. And honestly, I think you'd be amazed at when we offer these things, how much that just resonates with, again, just people in general, but also especially the conservative but looking ahead, because they have capital, they have money to spend, and they're looking to do it. There's just some hesitancy. So they need some help getting over that bridge so that we can actually, again, have that relationship with them and be able to essentially kind of build that out. So, again, how does that get done then? So what we want to look at is how to market, social media posts, great way to kind of be able to do that. Here, we could even add social media ads. I have some clients that, again, hey, we're actually going to spend a little bit of money here, and we're actually going to target some of these individuals because maybe we are offering deferred payments, maybe we are offering discounts, and we want to make sure, because we want to positively coerce as many people in our demographic as possible, and social ads, and we, again, can really kind of help with that. Still having the website messaging, the blogs are another great way to obviously be able to do this with the different types of messaging that we can do. Also, maybe some minimal Google ads. Again, I wouldn't go full blown with Google ads, but maybe if we have a minimal spend, we can still try to target those people that are maybe looking for our products or services. As a reminder, the big difference between social media and search engines like Google are going to be Google and search engines. We're going after people that are actively looking for us, which again, in this crowd is definitely going to be mitigated from before. Whereas social media is we're going after people that we think would be interested in our product or service, or in this case that, again, may not be actively searching for us because maybe there's some hesitancy there, but then we can look to actually target them from a social media perspective, from a demographic, from a likes and dislikes kind of perspective. And we can actually then get in front of them with our message, which obviously is visual or even video, and say, hey, this is why you should, again, feel comfortable with us. And this is why we want to do again, this is why we want to have a relationship with you guys, for that. I work with a couple companies that I just listed here that have done a really good job. ESESA, they've done a lot of free resources. They've done a lot of different social media posts and advertising around, hey, we're here for you. This is how our product actually helps you during these times with people staying at home. And this is how we can help. They've created a bunch of videos, a lot of self-help guides, and it's really helped them succeed during this time because not only, yes, some of that is even good for group one, but for group two, it was being there and showing them how actually, again, their product or service would actually help a client or a customer succeed during this time. Rapid Key Recovery is a local locksmith service here that kind of changed how they did things, meaning that, again, they did contactless, locksmithing. They did a bunch more sanitation. They were offering deals, just the way that they were kind of communicating in understanding that, most likely people are driving less. So they're going to have less, auto lockouts and locksmith needs. But with people being in their home more, there were obviously potentials and opportunities to, again, be in people's homes more. And obviously, how do we communicate that to people? So they actually put together a marketing kind of campaign where they focused more on the residential and also changing their, their process and making people feel comfortable. And it was a very good success for them on how they were able to kind of adapt there. But really, they had to positively coerce, again, users to let them know that, hey, this is okay for us to do this for you, and this is why. So those are just kind of two quick examples. But again, this is going to be the crowd that you're most likely going to spend the most amount of time in. You're going to take some of your normal marketing strategies and efforts that you've done in the past, and we're going to kind of morph them a little bit with a softer approach and reiterating two things: what we do and how it can help, but even more specifically, how it can help during these times with everything going on. And then last but not least is going to be the business as usual crowd. So this is the crowd that is, again, not as going to be as prevalent as group two, but can also be one of the most, again, high ROI, return on our investments for our time and money spent. So the business as usual crowd, and it's important to realize that they're still out there. Now, again, we don't want to forget about the other two, and I'll get into that just a little bit here as well. But it is important also not to forget that these guys are actually out there. So this group and crowd is willing to spend. They're willing to actually go out there and spend their money. They're opportunistic. They're looking at, taking advantage of different opportunities out there that may not have been out there before because of, again, COVID. For them, life may be, yes, everything has been affected. Every single one of us across the globe has been affected. But, again, for these people is, maybe from a financial standpoint, maybe just, again, a relative standpoint, life is kind of as usual and still moving forward, and they're still making all of their purchase decisions and potentially even making more of them because of maybe some of their good fortunes or just the current situation that they're in. So this is the type of crowd that we want to make sure that we're doing normal marketing for. Again, they just potentially need to be reminded that you're there and that, again, you offer that product or service, especially if it has anything to do with, like, for instance, home or, again, home office, residential, where people are at. It's super important to kind of realize, again, the importance of kind of just quickly reminding someone that you're there, that we're open for business. Also, this crowd is kind of, again, treating themselves, saying like, hey, again, either from a financial standpoint, just from a life standpoint, I'm in a certain situation right now. I could look to take advantage because, again, this company is offering discounts. This company is offering payment plans, and this is a great opportunity for me to splurge a little bit because I'm actually getting a better deal than I normally would. And obviously as the business, we're, again, hopefully, having an influx of customers, or also this crowd can also kind of set a baseline, meaning that, again, if we can get a baseline of business as usual, again, clients to be coming in our door and spending money, obviously then we can spend some of those efforts because we've got to try harder with group 2, and also then realize group 1 is going to be more down the road. So it's kind of looking at blending these together to obviously not only get us through, but then even set us up after we're all done. So how we want to, again, market to the business as usual is, again, social media ads are a great way. We're going specific to them. Social media ads are only going to show up to the demographics that we choose. So social media ads can be super powerful because we're all, they're not public. They're just going to those users that we think would be like, hey, remember that we're here, treat yourself, again, buy my products or services. Again, we can have some website messaging and landing pages, some blogs. And here's also where Google ads start to come into play, because this is the group that isn't really, again, searching less for products or services. If potentially they're obviously most likely searching the same, if not even maybe more, looking at these different opportunities or trying to be opportunistic from a positive perspective on what is kind of going on. So this is where, previously we were talking about maybe some minimal Google ads. This crowd would really benefit from targeted, either, increased or, normal spend on ads, because again, they're looking for you. Another really good way is an email or a newsletter, because you can pick and choose. And most likely, if you have these emails of these individuals, you may know, or that they're more closely related to you, and you can then send a specialized message to them. Again, reminding them, offering discounts, offering deferred payment plans. And so obviously the idea here too is we're not always, again, we can't just say, oh, hey, John Smith is group 2, Betty Johnson is group 1. We kind of obviously have to understand that all three are out here, and it's such a fluid situation. So you're not going to necessarily be able to know who is who, but it's important that if we know what's out there, we can prepare and we can have 3 separate kind of messages or 3 separate demographics within our demographics that we're going after, so that we can, again, set ourselves up for the most amount of success. So the one thing too that we just have to be careful about is with the business as usual, is that we, again, potentially either tone it down or don't do it as frequently, because we want to make sure that we don't seem crass or disconnected from groups 1 and 2, meaning that we don't just want to go into our marketing and just do business as usual messaging, because that potentially is going to turn off group 1 and group 2. It's not going to necessarily connect with them. And also it could have some adverse effects that we, again, seem a little crass, and we don't seem like we understand the, again, kind of what's going on. So I think it's important to kind of realize that, again, it's a delicate blend, and it's a delicate balance here. Unfortunately, I don't have like the silver recipe to kind of tell you, again, with that, because every industry is going to be different. B2B is different than B2C. Again, different industries are going to be different amongst each other, smaller businesses to larger businesses. But it is important that no matter your size of company, no matter your industry of company, no matter who you go after, if it's businesses are your clients or consumers, again, like residential or just an average day user is your client, or potential client, it doesn't matter, because I can guarantee you every single one of these 3 groups are found within whatever demographic you peel back. And so, and I think that's what's kind of unique too, is that, again, this is across, again, not only, again, does this situation, it doesn't care what, again, who you are, the size of business, the industry, it's affect us all. And these psychological kind of buckets or groups are also going to be found within all of them. The other thing to kind of remember too is so kind of bridging that offline and online marketing. It doesn't matter even if you're completely online, we still need to be cognizant of that. But this is even more important, that if you have a brick and mortar store or you do a lot of business offline with that, make sure that, again, your branding, your messaging are congruent. Again, I've been amazed at when we've looked at and we've, again, talked with different clients, or we've had those things kind of come up, that, again, like, unfortunately, those don't necessarily always align. Like when we gave the different examples of, you can do the social media posts, you can do blogs, you can do website messaging, make sure that's congruent through all of it. Also, take advantage that if you create, again, like for instance, if you create a video, a how-to video on how to maintain your lawn that you're really going to be proud for, to kind of share that with group one, the Slam on the Brakes group. Well, again, that's great, but let's make sure that also goes on the website. Maybe let's also send a new newsletter. Let's make sure that also goes on YouTube or social media. Make sure we're getting maximum exposure to increase our ROI and, again, even just mitigate the amount of resources and content we need to create. Also, it's making sure that you understand your marketing channels. Marketing channels being is it social? Is it, again, networking? Is it billboards? And kind of understanding, obviously, again, the different aspects and the different ways that we can kind of communicate that stuff. But really, again, we can still make sure it's all congruent. If you're building a video or having a billboard, you can still have the same message. Now, how you're going to deliver that message, definitely different, but again, it can be really kind of still congruent. Also, just understand, again, your audience. We've already talked about this, but it's important just to reiterate, is that, the in-store versus online versus curbside versus delivery, there's, again, you can probably just align with what we just talked about, the different groups 1, 2, and 3, most likely who they're more comfortable with, just from kind of the stuff that we've, again, discussed here. But, again, with knowing that, and just kind of understanding where people are going to be at, just knowing that we're dealing with different audiences, and, again, not to get frustrated with, again, different audiences, and be understanding and know that, and having that optimism and that confidence that they are going to come back. But again, we can help that by doing some of those relationship things that we've talked about. And, use all your channels to connect to each other. We just talked about that, making sure that we take all of those resources and put those in with each other. So the idea here is, we want to market because we may have to, obviously, because business just doesn't stop, again, for that. But the idea is that people are still looking to make purchase decisions, or still looking to want to have a relationship with you. So make sure that we, again, put a little bit of a pause and we look to audit ourselves. Again, make sure that we understand the audiences. Again, remember, Slam on the Brakes crew is not going to really do anything. It's really building for the future. They're very nervous. They're panicking. And that doesn't mean to be offensive or anything. It's just the way that they're feeling right now. And we need to be cognizant of that. Conservative, but looking ahead, they're going to be the largest group that we're talking about, and they need to be positively coerced out of there. And we can do that maybe with some payment plans or some discounts, but just kind of reminding them that, again, we're there, and we're not only there, but we're there to help, and really reminding them again, how do my products or services help you now or even into the future? And then last but not least, understanding business as usual is a great way to remember that these people are still out there. No matter what recession and the end of time, and even previously, is there's always individuals that are either, increase during a recession, stay the same where it's not affected. And so obviously the idea is we want to try and at least get somewhat of a base of those, because that can help us from a financial standpoint, from a stability standpoint, to kind of get out of this and potentially even sell them more now, because they're looking to take opportunities that you're building into this for the conservative but looking ahead crew. They're looking to take advantage of, positively take advantage of the, of the discounts, of the deferred payment plans. And we may be able to actually now sell them more on it, because they're looking to, again, be opportunistic with those. And then just another reminder, always want to make sure we're bridging our offline and online marketing. This just isn't just for COVID. This is for any time. We want to make sure that we're bridging those, again, essentially together. So, again, as we kind of wrap that up, I'd love to open it up for questions. If anybody does have any questions, again, for this, and would love to kind of see if there's anything else before we kind of wrap this up. I know we've got a little bit of time here.
Absolutely, Ben. Thank you so much. Yeah, we do have 2 questions on the chat. Let's jump onto that, and then Raj, I think you have a question, right?
Yeah, Ben, I liked your presentation, but to me it looks like this kind of methodologies you've discussed are more towards B2C than B2B. Am I right?
Well, not necessarily, because to be honest with you, we've used these same strategies for a lot of business to business clients, because obviously school marketing just works with businesses to get them online or enhance their online presence. Now, again, like sometimes where I think that maybe come from is that we're dealing with the individual's, again, kind of psychological state or what they're going through, which, even from a business to business though, is the individuals are making a decision. But I will say, to be honest with you, yes, there may be some more correlations to that, but you can still definitely, like I said, like ESESA was one of the companies that I reference. They're a complete business to business. We're complete business to business, and we've used all of these strategies as well as I've identified groups 1 through 3, even within business to business.
Yeah, I would like to share my experience in this context. Is we were developing a very advanced stage proposal with an airline company. I cannot name them. It was a SAP implementation project, and our pricing made very good sense. And they were almost about to sign on the dotted line, and then the COVID happened. And today they are in a situation where they have to retire a good chunk of their aircrafts. Doom and gloom is seen. And they are saying, Raj, we don't know whether we'll be in business next year this time. See, there is the people who slam the brake for very valid reasons. And even after retiring a good chunk of their flights, the existing remaining flights, they are not running full and they are hurting all over. Okay. And secondly, the cruise industry, the holiday travel, their ships are parked all over the world. They are not able to move the ship and bring it back to the US, incurring huge costs and losses. And they were using a lot of our consultants on their computerization efforts, and they were all let go overnight. Okay. So now these are very, very hard situations as to how you will convince them to spend even one penny now or in the next 6 months or probably next year, because all their plans have gone haywire,
Yep.
So would you have any comments here?
Yeah, so a couple of comments would be absolutely. Those are, again, I would say that's, again, not quite the norm. Those specific, again, examples you gave, they're absolutely important to kind of realize and to talk about. But I think it's important to realize that most of us aren't in that dire of a situation where we can't, again, perform at all. But the other idea though, too, is, again, they're most likely, like for instance, cruise ships, they're most likely obviously dealing with, again, group 1, and they're almost forced into it because they can't leave because of government or restrictions, or obviously even just, again, personal use or personal preference of not wanting to go on a cruise ship for obvious reasons. But again, that doesn't mean that, again, we should shut down everything. Now, unfortunately, there's going to be some collateral damage with being, people being let go and things like that. But really what we're kind of talking about is mainly from a marketing perspective on what can we do to try to still make sure that we have a relationship with them. Yes, you're right. Like they may not make a purchase decision for 6 to 12 months. And in those particular industries, it's almost even a different conversation than we're having now, because they maybe even have more dire straits. But the idea though is, and no matter what industry you're in, even those, they still are doing marketing. They still have to try to have a relationship with them. Otherwise, they might as well wave the white flag and just be done and file bankruptcy if they're not going to do anything. And so marketing is one of those aspects of trying to remind people that, yeah, we're still here. Obviously, you're not going to use our products or services, or use them as much if we're being more effective than other people or than we would like, but you still have to make an effort and you still have to do that. Otherwise, like I said, you're just going to go out of business just like that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. So we have 2 questions from Dilip. It says, how do you divide the finances between number of marketing locations?
Yeah. So, I mean, like it's hard for me to necessarily answer that without knowing a little bit more. But I would say in general is looking at, again, what's going to deliver you the highest ROI. And also understanding within the three different groups that we talked about that the most valuable is going to be group three, but going to probably be one of the least amount of, again, it's going to be the least there. So group two, if we're talking about, the different groups that we talked about today, would be probably is going to give you the best ROI overall with the amount that you're spend and the return that you would get, and also the prevalency of those people out there. Now, specific, actually, if you're talking GPS or physical locations, I would say obviously trying to see if we can identify areas that are being affected less than others. I'll give you an example. If we're talking about in the United States is, again, California, Houston, and Florida are being hit a lot harder than, for instance, Minnesota or some other states out there as well. Doesn't mean that Minnesota or the other states aren't going through some things, but that's another way that we can also look at different locations and try to have a strategic plan of where are we spending our dollars and which locations are we going after.
Perfect. The other question from him as well is, how do you identify the target audience in our huge online data?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking about how do we identify which group people are in, like I said, unfortunately, we don't have, again, everything at our disposal. We can't, obviously, from a psychological standpoint, we can't know, but we can use some data that's been out there, meaning that, like, again, we can know that most likely it's going to be a different situation in Houston and Florida than it is in other states. And so we can utilize some of that kind of information. But the other thing is realizing that all three of those different groups are out there. And so having different messaging to them, and we're going to have to do some, market research. We're going to have to potentially do some ads and see which ones are performing better. See if we can glean some, again, in this area, if it's a geographic area or a certain demographic, certain, again, household income. So that, it's really utilizing some of the things that we've already done before, meaning that, again, we use all these different types of demographics when we come to income, location, to male, female, all ages, all that kind of stuff. But we just need to almost pair it now with some of the data that we know of, again, from across the country, across the world, of the different types of things that are going on, and almost like kind of start to parse that out and kind of funnel that down, as well as understanding that, again, you're not going to be able to look at a list and say 100% certain these guys are in group one, these guys are in group two, these guys are in group three. You're going to have messaging for all three. And just, again, honestly, unfortunately, I don't have, again, a silver bullet answer for you, because every industry is going to be different, but you're going to have to play around with it. But the people that do that and start to actually make an effort to do that are going to be more successful for the ones that don't.
Absolutely. So true. So it's the need of the situation and a little bit of trial and error methodology, I think.
Just like any
that,
yeah. Different aspects of different situations.
Yeah, Dilip, you have any other question, or are you satisfied?
Yes, Ben, hi. This is Dilip here. I'm actually a migration agent, and I service people who wanted to travel across the countries. So mainly on terms of visas and investors and all the stuff. So when, these mostly a service-oriented industry, which I'm actually working on. And as you're talking about, trial and error thing, I don't think, trial and error stuff will really help me out in getting out of this situation, because currently, due to the COVID situations, you see very few people, showing interest or going forward on a particular, product. So, do you have any other tool or something which can help us out, coming down onto identifying the best target audience?
Well, again, so one thing I would say, though, with your industry that you're kind of talking about is, one thing that you guys can be doing that I've seen other people do is, again, virtual tours of those different locations or vacation spots. Again, still being able to still do marketing, even though, again, like we talked about, that people aren't willing to spend or to kind of do that kind of stuff. Or if we're capable, coming out with offers that we can give them at a later point, even if it's just gift cards or whatnot. Now, again, I know you can't necessarily make some of those decisions, or maybe kind of a group. But I think one thing to kind of realize is, again, we're still using the same demographics. We're just now, from a psychological standpoint, going after them differently. So you can still go after the same demographics. It's just we have to change our messaging to be able to kind of, again, reach them on what again, touches them and what psychological standpoint they're in. So again, like the same demographic tools that you utilize, if that's, again, if that's SEMrush, if that's Moz, if that's within social media, if that, again, there's a ton of different tools out there, some low, some high, but I'm just saying that you're still utilizing and going after the same demographics, where just the messaging is definitely going to be different now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you. Any other questions? If I see some new names, Bevavi, Prem, Asim, thank you for joining in.
No worries.
Well, perfect. Well, again, I appreciate you guys for having me today. If anyone ever has any questions or you want to discuss more, I know we had a couple industry specific type of questions. Obviously, a lot of this information we talked about is meant to be cross industry, cross everything. But if there's more specific ones, feel free to reach out with me with the information on your screen and be more than happy to help or answer any questions.
Yeah, Ben, I would like to make a comment, and that is across all these three kinds of clients that you discussed, we have to make it very clear to them, whether it is virus or no virus, they need to grow. Okay? If a group of people are hitting the brake and then they are not buying anything, to that extent they are impaired in extending their services to the client, and they may get run over by the competition. Okay? So we need to, one, create a fear of God. Hey, whatever be the situation, you need to grow and you need to consume. And second strategy may be to work with them as a partner. Instead of just being only trying to sell and push things to them, how can I work with you on a partner? Sometimes even in positioning their products to the clients, etc.
Exactly. It's looking for those opportunities, even
Yes.
ourselves being opportunistic and, potentially having to hustle more or work more at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, anyway, irrespective of the situation, all these three categories of the guys will have to look ways and means of growing. Okay. And how can we make that possible for you using our services? Okay.
Yep.
So, and secondly, like you said, that innovation at the business to consumer level, I saw in the car dealership, there are several car dealers where they are saying you can remotely discuss with us and you can pick and choose your car, you can negotiate the terms, and we will deliver the car to your home. And if you are leasing, we will bring the paperwork. That makes the consumers a lot more comfortable, that they need not have to travel and they can get better terms,
No, absolutely.
So something like this, we need to look at different models for different industry segments, thinking outside the box of eliciting the clients.
Yep. So yeah, and I think one of the important things, again, to kind of remember too, is again, we're still dealing with the same demographics. We're still dealing with a lot of the same types of things of do more than your competition, stand out. It's just, we have a whole new dynamic or another type, again, unique situation that we also just need to consider, but it also offers us an opportunity to potentially even do that at a grander scale, because others, from a competitive advantage, others may not be doing that.
Yeah, you're right. And recently the CNBC, which is a business television channel, you can browse their articles online. They have a service called Pro, CNBC Pro. Okay. If you happen to be an investor or you're increasingly turning into stock investing, The Pro offers tricks and tips for you to get ahead of the market. And the Pro service was priced at $300. Many people were not buying, me included. Then when I withdrew at the end of the trial period, they offered a 25% discount. And then I signed up,
Yep.
So basically this idea you suggested, that offering a discount.
Yep.
The fence sitters can be pushed around, a little bit.
Yep.
So thank you, Raj. Yes, you gave us some tips as well. And so at the end, we definitely know, so we have to know the tips and tricks, but at the same time, we need to empathize. We need to understand the customer's needs and go from there. So thank you so much, Ben, for the wonderful session, the powerful, I would say, you were like, yes, trying to do something, make a difference. So thank you so much for your time, your effort. I know you've been very busy, but still taking out time and doing this webinar for us is really appreciated. And just a quick reminder that we have these webinars every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. EST. And tomorrow we are coming up with another extremely, technical session with what is serverless computing. Focus on your code and functionality and stop worrying about your servers and maintenance. And on Thursday, we have another session of Let Us Talk It webinar, data visualization, its impact on business and economy. So having all that, and we have, as we started a couple of weeks, last month, our Let Us Talk It Youth series, which has taken up a huge, as soon as we started. So we will be having it this week also on Friday, Let Us Talk It Youth series. And this would be the mobile phone addiction part 2, where we'll be talking about our challenges, our solutions to the challenges that we faced, what we discussed last week. So it will be another interactive, exciting session on Friday. With that,
Ben, 1 minute, Julian.
Yes.
Ben, I would like to make a light-hearted comment. When I look at your picture on the screen with the purple T-shirt, you look like a Hollywood film star. You can try your hand at that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And then particularly the backdrop, the glass building, you can try and act in a movie, something similar to Mission Impossible and be a competitor to Tom Cruise.
I will look into that. I love that.
And if you want any references, don't forget to ask Raj for that. And me too. I would not disagree. So, thank you, Raj, for that.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining in. And if you want your youth, your kids to join, please email us at webinar at LetUsTalkIT.com. And with that, we end this session today. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.